So, hello, einen sehr schönen Abend, Frau Lebwitschir. I wish you all a very good evening. Thanks for participating us. We are having here a very interesting talk tonight, all in Vienna, with Roberta Lima and Felicitas Thun-Hohenstein, one of the curators of our actually running shows in Künstlerhaus. And with this second exhibition at the reopening and newly renovated Künstlerhaus, the Association of Austrian Artists continue with their 150 years old tradition of the country exchange, proceeding with a new and contemporary form of dialogue. Correspondingly, due to my very own Carinthian Slovene origins, the beginning has been initiated by the unique time of the artistic exchange between Slovenia and Austria. At that time, having received two parallel invitations from Austria and Ljubljana, I have interpreted it as a clear sign calling for action, and hereby my sincere thanks go to Slovenia ambassadors in Austria, Ksenia Škrilec, as well as Barbara Koželj-Podlogar and Andreas Pavlicek from the both countries' cultural forums. So bringing two countries into an artistic dialogue ought to be seen as a significant opportunity, highlighting the commitment of artists of both countries and making it visible in terms of their individual and collective agency. In this instance, as a Carinthian Slovenian who grew up bilingual and now lives in Vienna, the importance of languages has been a particular motivator. The renunciation of the other language in the life of the mainstream society takes the lightness of the originally self-evident diversity of language and therefore restricts our worldviews. Same matters apply to the language of fine arts, seen as a different language, which in fact has the potential to expand and refine the view on life and the world. So many thanks to Felicitas Thun-Hohenstein and Alenka Gregorič, who have been developing the concept for the exhibition with a lot of effort after we have proceeded with the inquiry into cross-borders and cross-generation spaces of action for feminist, queer, cross-media art practices. So the cooperation partners, MGLM, Muzej and Galeria Mesta Ljubljana, City Gallery Ljubljana and City of Women support the process, and whilst placing it in a slightly different light, will display the exhibition in Ljubljana in spring, in April 21. So very soon. Our exhibition seeks answers to questions of solidarity, questions about the impossibility of a dialogue, likewise including the conversation between generations, questions of building bridges between different artistic and social positions, between people and countries, between the institutions of cultural life, and definitely shutting down gender inequality. Until the 1960s, women were denied of the membership in the Künstlerhaus. So this is even for today a very important task. But today, membership and gender equality of all sorts are of priority, made also evident with a female president elected as the head of the Artists Association. So, I mean, do we speak of solidarity as an attitude or an action? Ko gesta postane dogodek, when the geste zum Ereignis wird, when gesture becomes event, an analytical separation is certainly difficult or even not possible. Women have always been seen as the keepers of a language who will better pass on the voice and mother tongue to our next generation, if not women. So not necessarily screaming, nonetheless always perceptible, even from afar, but sustainable and evident in the language of art. So, and therefore I would like to pass the language of art to Felicitas Thun-Hohenstein. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tanja, for this wonderful introduction, which has so many links and associations to the International Women's Day we celebrate today. And I think it's just the right day also to put this discussion about the work of Roberta, which has in its core the question of network and of building structures which support each other. Something that is very important also in the feministic thinking, or in a queer feministic thinking, and which still has to be developed further, I must say. So I would like to actually see or note the exhibition as a good example for this also queer feministic solidarity, because how it was built, the exhibition, it was built on co-working, on cooperation, on commitment, and on solidaric gesture towards each other. Like Tanja already mentioned, it's an intercultural exhibition and project where at the very beginning Alenka Gregorič, as curator based in Ljubljana and me based in Vienna, kind of came together without knowing us before, yeah, but out from the very beginning, each of us was only, the main aim was to do a really good and sense and exhibition which brings together art with questions of urgent questions in society. And so we decided to take solidarity as a kind of source of our research and our curatorial work. And due to the pandemic, it also, the exhibition, we had 2 lockdowns and it was shifted, but we could use this time very much for long discussions and exchange with each and every artist. And the projects got even more and more intense, and the people more committed. And I think this is what the exhibition also kind of shows as a whole statement. And this is, I think, also a statement that we can build up for the future. And with your work, Roberta, and I think this is also the point why it was so well received. I mean, the work is within weeks, it was you know, on the headlines and in articles, and people really were very driven to this work of yours. Of course, they know your work because in Vienna you now you live in Finland, but in Vienna you had several exhibitions and performances. They know your work, but this was quite of new what they saw, and they were euphoric. And why have they been euphoric? Because I think you triggered a very important topic, and as always, aesthetically risky, but very precise. And this is network, structures, and support. And you bring together in this work 3 systems of support. On the one hand, this worldwide Wood Wide Web. On the other hand, our internet web, and then the structures and the support system of our body. So this is always, you bring together these structures, and the infrastructures right now, be it the physical ones or the technical ones or nature, are at the moment in transformation. And that's, I think that's why you really got the point and why it's so. Can you please, and you told me today about the article you just read in New York Times, so maybe we can take this article as a starting point for the background of your work. And then I would love to come to the moment how the work really developed, because you have not been in Vienna when it was installed, which is a quite bizarre situation, you know, as artistically, but just came last week and saw the different stations of your work, be it the red carpet room of Künstlerhaus, be it in Künstlerhaus, the huge installation, or in Sammlung Friedrichshof. So this journey, can you describe us a little bit? But I would also be very curious about this this article where the journalist compares feministic work with structural network of the World Wide Web. Thank you.
So thank you that I'm here. And so for a clarification, I am not in Finland at the moment. I am in the 7th district in Vienna. It's just because we are all in a different place, and we decided also because of restrictions, speaking of networking, in Karlsplatz, we have like restrictions with broadcasting and internet. So in the end, although we spent this whole year apart, and it took me so long to come, we are still using the system of support that it's the internet today to make our Zoom, which is also brings it to another level of interest. Yes, so where to start? No? I was thinking, what if, Luisa, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is amazing for you to see the level of solidarity, because it's International Women's Day. I also think it's super important to mention. I have a person who is important to me, and we have been working together a lot. Very talented artist from Brazil is Luisa Furtado. She's here with us. And Luisa is directly from Brazil, assisting me in what we're showing you. This is amazing, how the level of like system of support gets known. So before I say anything, it's the following. I have to start by saying that without the support of my girls and my people, I don't get anywhere. So this is the first thing. No? We like so much to talk about the self, about Selbstständigkeit, and you know, being independent. But in the end of the day, we are dependent of so many factors, and we are codependent of one another to make things happen. No? So alone being able to fly from Finland and come here, I'm dependent of so many factors, and so many steps are there. And so that just to show that I've been from the beginning counting on a system of support that includes also people working for me in Brazil or with me, and also in Austria. So I would suggest that we launch the video right away. It's a video that we just filmed last week when I arrived. And it's not only the encounter with my own work, but with the work of all my colleagues, artists from Austria and from Slovenia, and also the perception of the room, the entering of Künstlerhaus building, and how it was for me also to see this building renovated. So it's so many levels of perception, and I would like to show you a very honest expression in my face of how it was to see it for the first time. Let's play it, Luisa, please.
Of course. I need to be allowed to share the screen.
Sorry, that's my. I think it went on. 2 seconds, please. 2 seconds. You're co-host now.
See, told you, we all depend on one another.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I can't I can try to describe how it feels to be here and the whole process, no, how this work started, and then how we pursue doing the production during the pandemic, and then it came the time to do the mounting, and I couldn't be here, and this time, no, that it took for me to see the works in person. And what I have to say is that it somehow embraced all the challenges of the pandemic that that other people now can understand. But if I may say, this experience with isolation and with having to reach out to the outside and to my team of collaboration to get anything done is something that I have been experiencing already since I moved to Finland. So it is, like I said before, impossible to do the work without my team. And I would like to acknowledge Erika Ataka, who we see in the video with me, and who was the one who physically built the cable structure, and Lauren Clocker, who has been following me, both Erika and Lauren, since many years. Lauren Clocker is doing film, and we did the first video, that is the video that's being presented at Künstlerhaus as a projection. We did it, I did the camera in Finland, but we did all the process of editing the film, Laura and I, via Skype. So I was in Finland, she was in Vienna, and we would share screen just like Luisa did with us before. And through this process, we would debate how the editing would take care. For example, the sound I worked together with a dear friend and collaborator of years, also from Brazil, Cristiano Selber. We've done sound before for Japan. So everything took place already in this distance mode. Before Ghost Plant as well, we worked in other works before, that the production would be done with me in Finland and with a team spread between Austria and Brazil and sometimes other countries. But the difference that I would like to emphasize between the works I've done before and Ghost Plant is that there was always the moment of the event. There was always the moment of the installation connected to a certain act, like a performance or an inauguration, the vernissage, some kind of event. Why? Because we were able to travel. So there was always that date and that knowledge that, or maybe this idea that we took for granted, that we could be anywhere when we wanted to be. The difference this year, and it was a challenge that I liked to say that it was very, of course, that we had challenge with the pandemic that were difficult, and they are still, but somehow I embraced this challenge and it made the work richer. Why? Because these layers of collaboration that took place hidden from the audience, and if they would become visible, they would become visible only through the event, they became extremely visible with this work. Because it achieved another level, no? So having people doing video together with me, this all is to be seen in the work, to the point that I couldn't not only attend an event, but I couldn't attend the event of mounting the work. And this was also a challenge that we were able to overcome and to embrace and enrich the work. So in the end, the concept of the Wood Wide Web and the concept of solidarity and cooperation achieved a completely different level, a level that no one of us was expecting to be like this. So this is what makes this work so special for me. And this is what I would like to continue to stress, that the questions that we had before about how necessary it is that all of us fly. Do we have to fly all the time? What about sustainability, materials? What about the transport of artworks? All of these things. So it came to the point that we asked ourselves, okay, does Roberta need to travel during a lockdown, or can we do this work with her from far? And this question was very exciting, and in the end, of course, we can. No, and this was amazing.
So if I just one question in between, how were your feelings when you came to Kaisplatz and afterwards to Künstlerhaus? And I think the dramaturgy that you chose also to first look at all the other works in the exhibition very respectfully and very, I would say, committed. And then the last work that you approached was your own work. Full of the other impressions, and how was it, so to say, as a physical experience, something that I think we learned to appreciate even more in these days?
Yeah, the lesson I learned. Excuse me.
Quite touching to watch you.
Oh, thank you. It was touching for me, so it's good that it comes across. Yes, very, very emotional, but also the lesson I learned already before the pandemic is to be patient. No, is to respect it, is to wait for the time. It is to learn how to cope with isolation, in the sense that I thrive from it because I go inside myself and I learn that certain things have the moment to happen. And I'm not talking in a holistic way. I'm really talking in the sense of like the moment that you start moving things, other things start to move, and eventually they fall into place, and then they find their way. And this is, for me, also has to do with solidarity and the World Wide Web. But we can come back to this. So answering your question, actually, the Ghost Plant was conceived for 2 spaces. This is very important to say. No? So this project all surrounded on the World Wide Web, and it's about connectivity, and it's about like reaching out to one another and how connections are established, how structures of support take place within the body. We have to say that it was also important, when Tanja said before, the aspect of women presence and feminism, and especially in today. Today, I'm always unapologetic about talking about feminism, but especially today, everybody has to hear and hear very well with attention. We always thought that there wouldn't be enough, let's say it this way, talking about this work. There wouldn't be enough space that would show this work. And in this sense, the networking spreads throughout the area of Kruisplatz in the 4th district and the 1st district. So the work is installed at Sammlungsfriedrichshof Stadtraum in the Schleifmühlgasse. Then it goes to Kruisplatz almost as a path, no? And then it ends up in Künstlerhaus. And I'm not saying that it is like this conceived, but I'm saying that's how I experienced when I arrived in Vienna. So we started on Tuesday this video filming at Stadtraum. And in Stadtraum, the work is installed in a way that it also relates to the space of the gallery. So the space is more compact, and we went with the cables in a way that there is no separation between working space and the space of exhibition. So the whole space becomes almost like my studio, like my atelier, but also it's the space that Marcello Farabegoli or Hubert Klocker work. No, so this idea that trees from different species are able to communicate through a network that combines us. This is what we try to do also with the installation of the work. So we are like making the space so hybrid and so democratic, in the sense that the concept of the work is very well spoken. When you move to Kruisplatz, you have like a little scope, little scale sculpture of what you see before in Stadtraum, that is also very democratic in the sense that it's in the urban space, but also in a street kind of situation. So you have it almost as it could be also part of the structure that enables the subway or communication down the subway to work. And then when you come to Künstlerhaus, this is the moment of, I was astounded, how do you say that? I'm sorry, in English, sprachlos, I was speechless, I was astounded, mesmerized, mesmerized by the work. Also because of the scale of the building. It's completely different atmosphere than Stadtraum or Kruisplatz. This is a completely different experience. And in saying that, the work achieves another level, because you will say, the work is the same. No, the work is not the same, because the sensation you have and the spatial notions that you have towards the work and the way you relate towards it is completely different. And yes, I waited until the end to see my work, because almost in a Kreuzgang situation, I went through the exhibition starting with the staircase and then the room in front, and then I went to the right. Although I knew my work was on the left, I went to the right because I wanted to have the same perception that others had. Not to mention that I really wanted to see the work of all my colleagues. I waited so long for that. I wasn't here during the Aufbau, the mounting. So I really wanted to see how the works in the end came together. And this is the difference, the main difference between Stadtraum and Künstlerhaus, is that the work is also not a solo position, but it is a work that works together in a dialogue with the others. And when I finally came to the last room, it was I was so mesmerized by the scale of the whole show and how well put and how ambitious it is, and it achieves this, that I was almost shy to touch the cable structures. You see in the video that in Stadtraum I'm acting in a completely different way. In Künstlerhaus I was almost asking for permission from the object to be able to relate with it. And in this sense, it's always incredible the power also of the room, no? And how the work achieves different levels of interpretation, not only because of the room, but also in the context that it's positioned. And then when we talk about this, but is it the same work and why is it in different places? It's like, why not? No, I couldn't stress how much we have to say, and I couldn't stress like how much people have to listen, and there is no such thing as getting loud enough. No.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And Tanja is architect herself, so I think this is also a topic which we are all interested into, and this enormous power of space. Yeah. Because also art in relation to space, we in relation to space, we in relation to other people, and art in relation to other artworks. So it's always, we are in a permanent transformation each and every situation writes its own history and exchange, and I think this is a very important topic also for all of us. But I think as we don't have so much time, and we could talk about this certainly for another hour, we have to come a little bit closer to your installation. And because what got much attention is that you put the wood wide web in the middle of your thoughts and your concept. So and again, I would like to come back to this article of the New York Times, because
sure. Let me post here on the chat for everybody.
Feminism.
There is this link. I just put it there. Let me see. Why can't I send this? Wait a second. Okay, I just sent on the chat for everybody the link of the article that it is in the New York Times. It's about Suzanne Sinat, and it's like a scientist who dealt with this subject of the Wood Wide Web already long ago, before it was so hyped, talked about it in the media. And the New York Times calls attention to also the way that women scientists are, treated by the colleagues in the field. And again, when we stress in the International Women's Day the importance of other people listening, and then listening to women voices, I thought that it was perfect that I was caught attention to this article yesterday, and I was just listening to the podcast now when before we were preparing for the Zoom. So I just put the podcast there, that whoever wants to listen to it with calm later, because it's fascinating. But I also separated some passages of the text to maybe I could read to you, because there is one in particularly that caught my attention. And just a second before. I like this one very much. When Sinat started publishing her provocative studies, some of her peers loudly disapproved. They questioned her novel methodology and disputed her conclusions. Many were perplexed as to why trees of different species would help one another at their own expense. An extraordinary level of altruism that seemed to contradict the core tenets of Darwinian evolution. Soon, most references to her studies were immediately followed by citations of publisher rebuttals. Quote, "A shadow was growing over my work," close quotes. Sirnat writes in her book, "By searching for hints of interdependence in the forest floor, she had inadvertently provoked one of the oldest and most intense debates in biology. Is cooperation as central to evolution as competition?"
It is.
I thought this was a fantastic quote because it also relates to solidarity, and cooperation in the sense of the arts, and how this topic is brought in when gesture becomes event so strongly. So we also experience that in arts competition, and who has the right of say what, who has the authority, who can speak louder, who can show more. Are we allowed to show the same work in 3 different venues? No? And is this then in the end about solidarity, or what is it about? Or is it about competition? So I thought that was very good. The whole podcast is fantastic, but there is also a passage that the colleagues describe her talking about the trees and this system, that it's almost like a motherhood system, of species taking care of other species and communicating, which feminism has also constantly been compared or related to as a girly kind of thing. So her colleagues would make fun or like diminish her efforts in explaining these scientific connections that take place in the forest and this underlayer of communication as girly thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought
that matriarchal thing,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
Yes, and also this patronizing, that we women artists are fed up of.
Yeah. I would like to bring in some questions which popped up in the chat. First, Tanja did forward a question that came up during guiding tours, and here we could connect maybe between the Wood Wide Web that you kind of which popped up in your video and which was theme of the video, but there was also the installation with the wires and the red cables and also the kind of parallel to the blood system. So can we see the red cables and wires as a parallel to our blood system and veins, and what could that mean is the question here.
Definitely. And again, I refer to the Wood Wide Web and to this article and this podcast that we came across in the last days. She also, in her publications and the book, she talks about the nerve systems and the systems of the mycelium, the fungi that enable the Wood Wide Webs to exist and to function. So when I started to think about data center cables as the possible material to do this work, I was obviously looking for a structure that was very similar to the one that I saw in nature. But when I thought about on how to incorporate the works I've done earlier, and I became like, as you said, people have known my performances that I did before that were more connected to the invasion of the body or the breaking through the surfaces, that in the sense, the skin of my body we could compare to the surface of the ground in nature, that the trees, they penetrate the ground and they go through the ground, and then the whole system is happening underneath. It's the same with our skin. So in my earlier works, the works that had to do with body modification, I was talking about those systems of these vessels of communication that we have in the body. So the nerve system and the circulation system, where the blood then streams, and then it's no surprise that I include the needles in the work. So those needles are needles that I used before in the earlier body modification works that I did in the early 2000s. And those needles, they appear in the sculpture, that in the Künstlerhaus, and also in the pictures, but also in the video. They are to see as like this last element in the tip of the cables. The choice to use the cables as red, it was like as you said, this is always the aesthetic of risk. No, we are always working with a certain aesthetics that at the same time evokes other images that we are familiar with from the body. So the color red was intentionally chosen because of that. And then surprisingly, I come across with beautiful contrasts. And this is the beauty of working with cables, these data center cables, is that they create, and they are also possible to be manipulated. And this is always very excited for me, this situation in which I can fish some of the elements from the earlier works in a way that you see all the body of my work as a narrative, not only of what I'm dealing with at the moment, that it's the wood wide web and the way we communicate with one another and questions of solidarity and structures of support, but also the works that I've done before and the whole trajectory of my life. I see myself as an artist that cannot dismiss the element of migration as very important in my work. So it's not only the way that I present the work, but it's the whole process becomes visible, as I said before, of how I move around the planet, and how I communicate with others, and how the work then in the end communicate with others.
Yeah, I would say it's a very complex way to approach this topic of solidarity and interconnection, interaction, and kind of support systems, and like you constantly get not tired to say that we are connected with each other and we depend on each other. And I think this is, and this was also the point that we got in the end conceptually with Alenka, that we have to understand that we depend on each other, and we have to respect our vulnerability that we experienced, especially in the last year. And it's not only something, it can be also, we have also to turn it into a positive into a positive thing, yeah, not only to see it as a negative, because vulnerability has much potential also to be more aware and maybe sensible, easier to see things and to look at each other in a different way, so to say. And this is also a risk that we have to take. It's not easy, but it's worth, I think. So there is another.
It is like a challenge, no? And during the pandemic, this became inevitable, because we all became very vulnerable. And we all reached one another. So somehow these ideas, like I said before, that you and I and the people we work with, my colleague artists that are in the show, we've been reflecting on these things since a long time. The pandemic comes in the sense that other people perhaps have the possibility to relate to this topic. And then when you say, oh, but then people could really get it. That's why, because we are all in a state of vulnerability at the moment. And then this was long due, the emergency of it.
Yeah, and part of this is also to critically reflect all the circumstances and structures that we are in. And so, and here I come to the question of Ina Leutzel. To you, it's, for me, the question is, so Ina Leutzel, is our life today without power, electricity, able to live? Question mark, less worth? Question mark, is the internet not our part of blood? And especially women with small kids, is the internet not an enormous help to become visible for female blogger, for instance? So these
definitely, definitely. Since the surge of internet, well, if you compare the World Wide Web, that is something that has always been there. No, this is when we talk about nature, we talk about the surge of a technology, or almost like a technology that has always existed. We just became aware of it through the works of scientists like Fianad. But internet was where with whole computer implementation in the mid of the century, after the war and everything. This is when things start to change. Because, for example, also in terms of climate, because we are talking about climate, the scientists always took climate as something unchangeable, stable. No? And then with the with the development of computer science, then there would be possible to make simulations and scenarios that, and also with the discovery of like the frozen ice in the poles, that has been seen that some things happened before that stabilized the planet. And and only with the help of computer that we were able to realize that the climate isn't something stable. With internet, it is this also a possibility of everybody becomes a producer. No? So it's also the immediacy that we saw with new media, and then the surge of video in the arts of the 1960s and the 70s, and Felicitas is the expert to talk about that, like Fluxus and all the video art and the start of performance as a form of art that took place then in the space of the White Cube, and the museums like started to then be more established. This was all the things happening too fast and almost simultaneous, no? So we have this story of how Nam June Paik acquired the first porta pack, that is like was a video apparatus that became very common in every household in America. So it's the beginning of home videos. Is the porta pack, and you have Nam June Paik filming his taxi ride from one place in New York to another as becoming this inauguration of this technology in the arts. And then we compare to internet nowadays, and we have people with their phones filming everything. And then with internet, it goes even further, because it's not only the immediacy of the act and what's happening right now and you're capturing, but you broadcast right away. And not only to a certain group of people to see, but a lot of people to see. So this elevates this notion of what we can achieve and visibility, you know, to something that we can call like hyper visibility. And hyper visibility is also something very important, because it's connected to the idea of identity, idea of gender, the idea of transgender, the idea of decolonial and migration, and so on. So these are extremely important things that we are living. And no wonder that in the International Women's Day, we're not gonna take sorry bullshit anymore. You know, like it's no time for that anymore. The time is for visibility. So she's very right when she writes that. About the kids, small kids and part of the blood, I must say that I take it more as I will welcome her input here, because I never thought of it. So, yeah.
So thank you. May I open the discussion maybe Is anybody who wants to put a question or a comment directly? I only see now names and no faces.
Oh, and I'm glad I got an emoji or a smile. I still an old school one, not an emoji, because that means that I answered your question. I hope I did.
And maybe everybody will show himself or herself.
That would be nice.
Because it's always nice to see the whole
faces.
Yeah. But I also understand if you do not want it.
Yeah. Hi.
So,
but there was one question maybe also that came up on how many different levels can the World Wide Web be interpreted on? Interconnection between human, non-human. This was when we had guided tours all the time asked.
Well, in my work, yes, no, but if you listen to the podcast, it is very no, that's not true. Of course, that if you, hello, good to see you. It starts off biologically speaking, but it expands to a philosophical thinking, to the point that she also writes about the way that the forest can feel us. Why wouldn't the forest feel the body walking through, or drops of sweat, or our voices, and so on? So this is another interesting a notion of how things are explained through science, like physics and biology, that it's based on acquired knowledge, a previous acquired knowledge. For example, water is H2O, it is transparent, but what if someone doesn't have this knowledge? Would this person understand water as I just described right now? So this is like the area of physics. And then there is the area of philosophy or the human arts. That is when we start talking about perception, and when we start to talk about other levels of knowledge. And then these scientists that dare to think about the forest as a living system, that why not, if they communicate to one another, why wouldn't they communicate to the humans as well, or feel the humans? This is the part that it starts to become difficult, especially for a woman, to express this kind of opinions, because it will be questioned. But in the field of arts, we can question everything, and this is what I love the most. Maybe that's why I didn't pursue being a scientist.
What I think just wanted to mention also is that how beautifully your work connects with the work of Mariette Zaboterj.
Through the doors, no?
It's like you both knit on structures which make clear, also in Mariette's text, she's mentioning it, that it's not possible not to support each other. Otherwise, we will not succeed. And Mariette, like you mentioned before, you said this girl thing, but it's a matriarchal thing. It's a matriarchat, yeah. Like in the work of in the video of Tanja, help me please, of the matriarchat in Mexico. Sorry, I'm just.
Tanja, we cannot hear you.
Magdalena Frei.
Yes, Magdalena Frei. This wonderful video where she shows this last, so to say, one of the last matriarchal structures with a long history in Mexico. I think they are popping up now a lot. again. Yeah, there's like, because I know it because I have this huge research project with Elisabeth von Samsonov, who is expert in matriarchal thinking. So there are a lot of projects all over the world, but this is, for example, this in Mexico, it's obviously one which has its roots hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and I think that Mariette Zapotoc also, she refers in her holistic view on our world, yeah, where that she stresses, like you say, yeah, human, non-humans, and organic, non-organic, everything, even as a material is something which has an agency. And when we understand this agency of each and every, even the so-called emptiness around, vacuum around, which is never a vacuum, there is always action in it. So if we understand that we can make it productive for ourselves also, and what huge potential, then we see how rich we are. Yeah, it's about multiplicity, and it's about plurality of knowledge that we can make productive. And it's about the structures which carry this, and these structures we have to weave all the time. We have to weave them, also the feministic solidaric structures. We have to be very aware, we have to be very precise, and we are not allowed to lay back. We have to keep on going and keep on acting and supporting and being aware, and like you said, giving a voice. So
exactly. To quote Richard Sennett, in the time of brutal simplifiers, it is more important than ever to look around and perceive how rich everything is, no? All kinds of matter, and then go deep into these questions, like we said before, that alone do, that there's no waiting anymore. Another big lesson from the pandemic for me was to not wait for anything anymore.
Yeah.
Not wait for the event in the sense of like a performance, or no, we do right now, we do with the resources that we have, and we make it loud. We make it visible.
I think we have especially in our cultural environment, we have the responsibility to make it loud. Yeah, apropos making it loud, the next station is Ljubljana of the exhibition, When Gesture Becomes Event. So I'm sure that the installation will develop further. So is there any small turn or some new moment that you want to share with us, or do we have to wait for Ljubljana?
I have to wait for Ljubljana. No? If there's something that we learned, is that we all have to wait, and this is so exciting. So the new room in Ljubljana, well, let's see how the installation and the elements will find one another. How we artists are going to find one another in this room. And going a little bit short back to what you were saying before, thank you for you, thank you for Alenka, thank you for Tanja, Alexandra, Pete, all the team from Künstlerhaus for putting so much effort in believing in us. Because what is it of an artist that has so much to say without giving it the voice, giving the space, and believing? So that you trust on me with this work, that you believed me, that you continue to believe in me, to think that I can put it even bigger in Ljubljana. This is what I try for. So I read here, to be active, not to be passive is the message. And we can be as much active and a lot more active when we have like a team of so powerful women and men. I'm talking about Pete, making my work happen. You know, like so without, this is the starting point, is that thank you for giving me this space, and thank my colleagues for being so strong and putting up this amazing show, not individually but collectively. This is so beautiful, and I won't apologize for what I'm gonna say now. Only a group of women or women identified people could have done that.
Yeah, so thank you for all these thank yous. Yeah, I think it's great to be graceful, and I think it also gives much power if we are thankful and graceful. But you know what? We need art, and we need artists as you are, yeah. And we need your language, and we need your critical stance, and we need your we need also the visual culture that you develop further, and it is I think it is on me as a curator who sees, I only see myself to make things possible. That's all. So and I'm the most privileged person to work with artists. I couldn't imagine my life without art, and this was from the very beginning. So I have to be graceful and thank that that I got on this path, and this since now 30 years. And I have a
fantastic.
Great, really, and of course you always have to get the possibility also to fulfill your curatorial dreams, because it's always like I carry something with me. It's like my protege, more or less most important also person in this concern was Katrin Pichler. She was a wonderful curator, and I've learned a lot from her. And I've kind of learned from her that the topics I'm interested in, it's and following and researching about it, and you can do it either by, you know, kind of teaching and writing texts, or doing exhibitions. It's all the same. You try to make it understandable, or to share your thoughts. It's not more than to share your thoughts that you think are important. And when gesture becomes event was the title of a book of Judith Butler that I appreciate very much. And when I read these books 3 years ago, I thought this would be the perfect title for an exhibition. It's because it has such a potential. It's just the gesture that you're giving hands, reaching out for each other. And so I was very happy when Tanja invited me and gave me the possibility in this amazing space to do this exhibition. I mean, this space is extraordinary and really great to work in. So, you know, it's always, like you said, we are connected and on each other, we depend on each other. And we are here to support each other, and then good things will take place.
Exactly. So you see that the concept of the Wood Wide Web doesn't apply only for Ghost Plant. It applies for everything you just spoke. In this sense, we could see the artist as the fungi, which is like that kind of creature that it's in the forest, people are scared of, you know, nobody really wants to look. It's a little bit of the punk rocker of nature. And then you think about the mycelium network that enables different species to communicate. This is the curator. The curator is one that it's like creating the network and making this, like you said, an enabler, no? So we, to go back to the question before, like in how many levels can we interpret the Wood Wide Web? In our show, in our personal experience, no, as a curator, as the president of the house, as the artist, and in the work. And I guess in our daily lives too, we have a lot to learn from, like we said before, structures that already exist around us, no? And we just so centered in the self, and it's not about that.
But I think I have to add something when we say that this network kind of and the cooperations and collaborations, it's all about collaboration. Yeah, there is no single curator or single artist or whatever. Not to forget the viewer and the visitor.
Exactly.
Without them, you know, it is not complete, and it's not going public. So like we had it in the Corona lockdown, yeah.
Yes, and before the Corona already, when I moved to Finland, no, because you have to imagine that I almost having like 20 years since I moved from Brazil to make my home here. And then 17 years of Vienna. Vienna is the city I spent the longest uninterrupted period of my life. Not even a city in Brazil where it's the country where I was born. I haven't spent that much time uninterrupted. So Vienna became my home. And when I decided to make the second migration movement, I was going to Finland, I was terrified of losing everything that I established here, those in terms of those connections, not only career-wise, but also personal level, family. And then to experience this sense of isolation, and to come to the realization that yes, Finland is great because you can go in this hermit situation that you can focus only in making of the work, but then it comes the time that you want resonance, you want like feedback, you want to talk about it, and this is what we're doing now. No, and we could have done with me there, but it's completely different to be in Vienna again. So in several levels, no, Vienna is never gonna stop being my home. It's never gonna stop being the place where I felt heard, where I was given room, where I feel that I belong. I never felt like this in any other place. And Finland has been a huge challenge because it has taught me lessons of pandemic way before the pandemic started. No? So the fact that the Finnish are so distant and reserved, and yeah, so no problem during Corona to not socialize and everything. So the screen that you see in the video, no? The video just where you see the back of Tanya's image, that I go inside the box and then I breathe and hyperventilate until the point that I scream. This is a call for being heard. This is this call for resonance, for audience, for exchange, because you can be on your own. We're never on your own, but in this sense of making this work, I could be on my own until a certain point, and then no more.
So also in this sense, we hope that we can open, or we are open already, but we can open also for having such talks in life and in real. So yeah, this is really what we are hoping, what we are working on. And we do plan our next steps at the end of the show. which also will become one day, that we might have official parts, that we might can do our official speeches that we wanted to do at the beginning of the show, that we might meet each other in real and talk about all these aspects of your work, of the work of the others, in real and in front of the artworks. So what we really hope is that a lot of people still come. We're open each day, Monday to Sunday, so everybody is very much invited to come. Even today, I think, I'm not sure how many people there were in today, but we had a special offer today. We had a girls female free entrance.
Yeah, nice.
Day, and I think this was a very good idea of our team, and which I will really thank for everything, for their effort, for everything they're really doing in all of our shows that are running at the same time. And yeah, so I think we are about at the end.
We're past, no, we're past our time. But like we said, we take everything that we can. Every minute is cherished. And for me, it has been a great honor. And this exchange, we haven't waited for the event of meeting in person. We did it now, but we are going to meet in person too.
We will, and I think, Roberta, since you are also a member of our house, so I think it won't be the last time we see each other in the house, and thinking of ideas, changing the ideas, especially, and meeting up in the Künstlerhaus. You know, the house is always open for everybody, especially for our members. So we are very much happy, very happy to have you here and your great artwork. So thank you very much for that, and thank you.
Thank you so much too, Tanja.
For being with us.
Thank you, Tanja. Thank you, Roberta, and all who came to listen to us. It was great to see you, at least online.
Very, very much. Thank you so much for listening to us. And if you have any questions, we're gonna upload the video on Facebook from Künstlerhaus later on. You please continue to post, continue to give your feedback to us. It's very important. It means a lot to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice evening. Good night. See you tomorrow at Künstlerhaus.
Bye.
Bye.